30-second board. These are the hot topics in the sport. It's weird, JT, how injuries seem to come in waves, like the same injuries, but this one is really bizarre. Jo Shimoda, the hot start to the season, now over due to a finger injury, but not because of a crash. This is so weird. What happened here?
It's unfortunate. It is rare, as you mentioned, but for Jo Shimoda, just what a brutal way to start off the second round. The first time he's ever had the red plate. And it's, man, you don't want to place blame. I'm sure that the mechanic that errantly put that pit board out feels terrible and has ever since that moment. But what a blow to the series, what a blow to Jo Shimoda, and what a gutsy ride from Jo Shimoda, too. That has to be mentioned. To be able to find a way to get seventh with the way those fingers looked, that is one of the gutsiest rides I've ever seen, especially from a guy that, we haven't ever seen something like that from Shimoda. I think he showed a lot of heart.
Ty Masterpool also goes down with that crash. That's more typical way that you get injured, and he did hurt his fingers as well. So we'll see what those guys are going to have long-term for the future. And the 250 class, the chaos there with Shimoda having his problems, Haiden Deegan not performing, at least results-wise, the way folks would have expected coming into the year. But this kid is a star is born. Julian Beaumer taking the test track speed we've heard about within the industry. He's got racetrack speed now.
He does, and I've really tried to lean into his comments, both coming out of Super Motocross and then in our Feld Media Days in December, where he said, if I ever ride like I do during the week, you guys are going to see a very different Julian Beaumer, and you hear that a lot. People say all kinds of things that never come to fruition, but when you say something and then you do it, I think that needs to be brought back up repeatedly because it's so rare in this sport, and he is delivering on all of the things he's promised. And I'm always iffy on these kids because we've seen so many young guys come into the class, not make it happen, and kind of flame out. And then they're just kind of floundering for position, trying to find a ride. And then you see kids like Julian Beaumer who sees the opportunity and really make the most of it, and they look like they're destined for superstardom. So yeah, it's up to them. He's gotten his chance. And I would say even coming into this season, we were all kind of like, hey, you've got to deliver this year. Kudos to him. He is making the most of this moment. And I think he solidified himself in this 250 class moving forward.
Oh, yeah. Once you get a win and that kind of speed under your belt, you're going to have a ride for years. Even if things start to go sideways, he's established himself. And in a similar way, I think the same thing is happening with Cole Davies. So it's funny to hear on the broadcast you folks talk about how experienced Beaumer is compared to Davies, who's leading, because Beaumer is 18 in his second year. But Davies in his first Supercross year, and he was supposed to race SMX next this season. He has been lightning quick.
He has been, and he has taken dramatic strides from a year ago. That's probably the most impressive thing to me. As I watched him last year, I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good. But it wasn't any sort of domination where I'm like, he is so ready. And when they decided to move him up, when the powers that be, which they look brilliant at the moment at Monster Yamaha Star Racing, I was very skeptical because I thought it felt early, but clearly they saw more than we did, and they were right because he has been the real deal. And you start to look at where his trajectory could go from here because he looks the part already. He's 2 races in and he's already fighting at the front. So great job to everybody around. And he's one of the most unique personalities we've come across. When you talk to him, he just looks at things a little differently. You can just sense that. And he is quickly becoming a force to reckon with in this 250 class.
Yeah, I met him and his family a year ago at this race, Anaheim 2, and they didn't know if they would be being a full-time racer in America at all at that point. A year later, that's a guarantee. Now, the weight of expectations is wild, right? Because you see how well Davies is riding, the disappointing results from Deegan with only 1 podium in 2 races. It would almost seem like, wait, who's the better prospect here? But JT, I brought this up and you pushed back hard. Deegan is still the better guy.
Yeah, the only time that Davies has beaten Deegan was in that heat race in San Diego where Deegan crashed. And don't let that be a detractor from Cole Davies. He has been phenomenal, but Haiden Deegan, in my opinion, is still the guy. This has been 2 of the most disappointing weekends we've seen from him in a very long time, and his demeanor on the podium spoke volumes about that. There was a lot of humility. He didn't say a word to anyone until the camera came on. And that is not Haiden Deegan's personality at all. He's usually up there and very personable, talking to everybody, smiling. That wasn't him. So I think he's kind of having a moment where he's having introspection, like, I got to figure this out. I'm putting myself in bad position. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I don't want to hear that Cole Davies is a better prospect yet. It's way too early. And we've simply seen too much from Haiden Deegan over the last 2 years, I think, to get there quite yet.
Deegan could win this weekend and have the red plate 3 races in, and that'll be gone. So we'll see. As for Masterpool, we did mention this. So he jumps into Supercross because Levi Kitchen is out with illness. They throw him into the West. Fans were not happy about this, JT. They wanted Masterpool to start East so he could be at round 1. I guess the Masterpool fans thought because he needs all the points to win the title. I don't think Supercross Championship, including Ty himself, was on the mind of anyone within that camp. So I don't think that mattered. But we still saw the problem here. Masterpool and Supercross have not been a good mix, and San Diego didn't change that.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I didn't think he was going to come in and be an immediate contender to win races or anything like that. We've never seen that from him in Supercross racing, period. On any bike, in any situation, he's never been that guy. So to think he would immediately vault himself into that was, I think, wishful thinking by many. The tough part here is now he's got this finger injury to contend with. What does that look like for his preparation towards the Pro Motocross portion of the Super Motocross World Championship? That's going to be a factor. I don't think it'll be a big deal, but it's not ideal for Ty Masterpool. So I think this is almost like last year at Fox Raceway, where he gets thrust into a position last second. He wasn't thinking he was going to race the West. He comes out, he looks pretty good, but then he has this gigantic crash like he did at the opening round. He has a gigantic crash here in San Diego. And unfortunately, it's 2 opening rounds for him where it was a last second thing where he's kind of crashed himself out of contention.
Maybe we see Drew Adams coming in. The team has said they cannot sub Adams in until the rider is officially out with injury. Then he can inherit the mechanic, the bike, and all that. And if they had all the riders healthy and Adams was racing Supercross, they'd have 6 riders of the showdown races, and they cannot handle 6 bikes under 1/10. So we'll see how they handle the Masterpool Adams situation going forward. So good and bad for Chase Sexton in these first 2 races. The good part is the speed that everyone was hoping he would have this year. He appears to have that. The bad is a couple of those other old problems that Chase Sexton used to have also rear their head at San Diego. So what do we think going into round 3 here, JT?
Well, the things that I wanted to see from Chase Sexton in 2025 were fix the starts. First and foremost, the first thing that's got to happen is he's got to get better starts. And second, I want to see the speed back in his game. We've seen that from him. So kudos on that. Unfortunately, the first lap in San Diego is one of the most poorly executed first laps that we've ever seen. I would say by anybody, let alone a former champion of this class. He almost got landed on. He made multiple mistakes. Then he ended up on the ground in the first lap. So he needs to clean all of that up. He did a great job of salvaging what could have been a disastrous night. Got back to 6th, still in the championship fight. Like, he did a good job of making the most of it. But overall, through 2 rounds, I would give Chase Sexton an A. I had 2 very defined things I wanted to see, and I've seen both of them. Fastest qualifier, better starts. It's just maybe not execute that first lap that same way.
There's so much talk about Sexton speed, and we'll get to Jett Lawrence, Eli Tomac in a moment. In the end, Cooper Webb is 3rd at this round 2, but a distant 3rd. And I think it'd be easy for the fans to say, well, it looks like speed-wise, it's just going to be Sexton, Eli, and Jett for the title this year. I say, nah, man, if Cooper Webb, this is fine. This is totally fine, and you will be surprised if you start to count him out. I think he's in a perfect spot.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't have the wins, but you look at A1, he definitely had more time off in December than he wanted to. He had a crash that he really kept under wraps, but he got a 4th, battling almost past Jason Anderson for a podium at A1, comes into San Diego, gets the whole shot, leads, I don't know, the first half of the race, maybe 8 minutes or so of the race, drops back, holds off Ken Roxon for 3rd. And this has been the game plan that he lined out. He said there will be nights where I'm probably not fast enough to win. And on those nights, I need to make sure that I get every point possible. And the most points possible for him on Saturday night seemed to be 3rd. And guess what place he got? 3rd. He's 4 points out of the championship after 2 rounds. So I would say this, count Cooper Webb out of this championship at your own peril. He may not be the fastest rider on the racetrack, but this is what Cooper Webb does. He stays in the fight all the way down the stretch, and he makes life incredibly difficult for everyone else competing against him.
What we are close to is a amazing clash of the Titans here. We got an all-timer in San Diego. We will not forget, probably ever, between Eli Tomac, this Eli Tomac, prime peak-looking Eli Tomac, better than 2024 Eli Tomac, against Jett Lawrence, who we already know is really great, and better, by the way, than he was at Anaheim 1. We hope to see more of these, but even if we only get it once, JT, this is huge for the sport. It wasn't a guarantee. Tomac could have retired. Nope. Instead, we got all-time battles between two Titans.
Yeah, this is Ali Frazier, if maybe they were 10 years apart in age. You know, the two guys where it's like the, you know, unstoppable force against an immovable object. You just don't know what's going to happen. You just expect the world to explode because of these two things coming together. But this is the fight we all wanted. And if you ask Jett, which we have, and he's been so forthcoming with this, is who is the guy you want to go head-to-head with and see what happens? He has mentioned Eli Tomac multiple times.
That one, that was awesome. Gosh, he got me at the start, and then I was trying so hard just to get close enough to make a pass, but dude, he was ripping. Sadly, there's no second motor like in SMX, so he got me on that one, but no, he rode unreal.
And you could see the joy on Jett's face after the race. Even losing the race, he was genuinely happy about getting to race with Eli. And also, I'm sure there was some relief in the fact that he was back in the fight, moved forward, and looked much better than he was at A1. But this race absolutely delivered, and it's really the first time we have seen those two go at it, and we should all be so lucky to get more of that down the stretch.
The fans, it's unreal. So, true story, I was at the pre- and post-race show desk at Anaheim 1 as the main event started, just hanging out, waiting for the show to begin. Tomac gets in the lead on lap 1, and the crowd was going so nuts in that building that I was compelled to take my phone out. I just wanted a video to forever remember how loud the fans are for Eli Tomac in 2025. By the time I hit record, he was on the ground. I can only imagine what that main event felt like when he was doing well the whole time at San Diego. This is a perfect connection between rider, athlete, and fan base.
The story is old as time. Even the people who were on the fence about Eli seem to have come around now. You know, he has this gigantic fan base that everybody was cheering for their different guys, and there was always a core there for Eli, but it seems like everyone has come around on Eli Tomac. So when he gets in the lead, and I think we're going to see that at literally every racetrack, if you see him anywhere near the front, just maybe grab headphones or earplugs because the crowd is going to erupt, and he deserves this. He's won a race 11 years in a row. That is incredible. He is now stands alone as the only rider to ever do that. And that might be a record that stands the test of time. You know, we've talked about 72 wins from McGrath for however long. I don't know if anybody's getting to 11 years in a row with a win. That is an incredible length of time to be at that peak level to win a race. It's unbelievable. I don't think we could ever talk about that enough.
That's what makes this Tomac story so compelling to the fans. We've often had the veteran 30-something-year-old guy who's been around a while, and the fans like them probably to a disproportionate amount, maybe even more than the results justify. But in this case, you could make the argument that Tomac's been the best rider in the series so far, and he has the veteran crowd support as well. This is both the head and the heart, both working together. Now let's look at the track for Anaheim 2. JT, what do you see?
Yeah, so back to Anaheim, and we're going to get that split start again. It is a little bit different, but think about Anaheim 1 in 2022. That's kind of more similar to the way the start is, where it's got that tabletop tunnel in the middle, but a little bit more standard style. It doesn't have the kind of weird angles that Anaheim 1 did, although it's in the same venue. The one thing that I think stands out here are the back-to-back whoop sections. We got 10 whoops last week. That was a big talking point that everybody was kind of like, it changes the algebra a little bit for how you have to approach the whoops. But on a heart rate level, and riders just trying to maintain their fitness and try to keep just their breathing in check, back-to-back whoop sections are very, very difficult. And the reason why is they hold their breath. That's a very under-talked about point, is when you're blitzing whoops, you hold your breath. When you have to do that 2 sections in a row, you get this heart rate spike that riders have to contend with, and they're going to be trying to manage that every single lap. And we don't get back-to-back whoops all that often, so it's just something to watch for, is how those riders manage that throughout the main event.
Well, this is it. We are off to round 3 of SMX this weekend. Same schedule that we had at San Diego. So that means 3 o'clock Eastern, race day live coverage begins. That's qualifying. And then the racing begins at 8:30 Eastern. You can watch it live on Peacock inside the United States or the SMX video pass out of it.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.